For this assignment, I thought I would have an accompanying just video demo here just to kind of let you know what it is exactly that I'm looking for, because otherwise I feel like this can be a little bit unclear. So this one is going to seek to not just emulate something that probably you've taken for granted as a consumer, right, as a user of devices. But it's something that probably we should look into a little bit as developers, potentially for these devices as well. So this is the App Modularization Challenge. And what I have for you here are the steps in modularization. So that's nothing new. These are things that we've already talked about, are to define the problem using an input-output and process chart, to group activities into subtasks or functions, to construct a hierarchy chart, to establish the mainline algorithm, to develop those subordinate algorithms, and then to desk check. Now, I am saying desk check here as something that has accompanied you in the textbook the whole while, right? So each one, or very nearly each one of the examples from the text has a small desk check with it. And I am not suggesting, again, I am not suggesting rather, that those are unimportant. It's just that really here with the scope of what we're doing, I want you to focus more on the algorithmic design than I want you to focus on proving that your design works. That's what I'll be going through and helping you with anyway. So this is the problem that you're supposed to solve. For those of us with a mobile device, so that's all of us, right? So I came here to my iPad to record this particular walkthrough just so that I had a device similar to what it is that you're looking for. But really, this is similar whether or not you're on iOS or Android. This is going to be similar whether or not you're on Mac or PC. A lot of, outside of just browsers, a lot of applications are now allowing you to send data from one part of your operating system to another. And it's one of the things that I argue certain systems do better than others, and I won't mention what they are. They're Apple and iOS. And other systems do pretty abysmally, and that would be Windows. Windows is actually a really bad culprit for this. For whatever reason, if you've got even similar data in one application, so if you've got an image open in File Explorer and you drag and drop that image into something like a Photoshop, Windows doesn't know what the heck to do with that. iOS, even Android, some versions of Android, Chrome OS, allow you to do exactly that, to tap on an image. So now I've got this image and I can drag it and share it with other applications. That's not exactly what we're talking about here. I wanted to focus on something a little bit more simple. I wanted to focus on the share with app list. So what is the share with app list? So this happens to be Edge browser on iOS. I just wanted to use a weird set of browsers here just so you could see that it's not Safari or Chrome that are the only culprits here. So if I come through to the share window, you'll see I get this list of applications I can share with. So this list is going to be different for you. It's going to be different for me. It's going to be slightly different for everybody. And what this represents is the order in which one of two things happens. This list is cultivated in the order in which these apps are installed, or I have to come through here to more and actually drag these individual applications around. But for example, I have never sent anything to save in PDF to books. I have rarely, if anything, sent anything to Google Keep. I send all the time things to Bear Notes. I send all the time to Gmail. But I have to go through and actually move these applications higher and higher in my list. And that's not to say that that's an impossible and an untenable kind of user interaction. So my best inner teenager is like, you want me to pick which ones these have to go through? And that's not exactly the case, right? But here, I'm in Eagle, right? And the chances of me sending this particular page to messages is just about zero. The chances of me sending this particular page to save in PDF books is almost absolutely zero. I have literally never printed anything here from actually any tablet I've ever owned. And it's not just Edge that has this. So, like I said, I was going to pick a strange browser. Here is Brave. Now, Brave, I just want to make a little advertisement here. Brave is built on Chromium. Chromium is the bones to Google Chrome. The difference between Google Chrome and Chromium, well, here, Brave browser in this iteration, is Brave does not track you anyplace. It actually blocks advertisements, cookies, everything along the way. Chrome, on the other hand, embraces those. So that's enough of my advertisement. So I come through here to share again, and you'll see I get the same list. Uncurated, the same list. But instead of, exactly everything being the same, I do get a little bit of difference here. Find in page, add to favorites, those are different than they were in Edge. If I was to go to another application, so Bare Notes. So again, this is something I use extensively. I find it's great because it syncs to all my Mac devices, which clearly I have too many of, right? And if I was to share my podcast notes for myself to another device, I would come in through share, and you'll notice again, I get nearly the same list. But again, I have to come through here and change the order of operations here. Now, is that usable? Yeah. Is it perfect though? No. What happens if I never send anything to Twitter? Why should Twitter be the second in the list of or it's the fourth, I guess, the fourth in my list here of what I want to share with? We have these devices, we have artificial intelligence, and I'll tell you, it's actually not an artificially intelligent equation that goes along with this. It is a simple bubble sort and an array that will help make the idea of a user, essentially page ranked user list for what kinds of applications it is that I'm using. So what am I trying to get to? Instead of, like the image we see here, instead of having messages, mail, iCloud, and Twitter, what happens if I always choose mail first, Twitter second, and messages third? And that's the order I always go in. Is there anything you can do algorithmically to essentially create PageRank? So those applications that I choose most come to the top of the list. Those applications that I choose least go to the bottom of the list. Now what I will tell you is, and you can tell based on the points value here, 90, this is big. But I can also tell you that each one of the discrete portions that make this work, you have already created as parts of other challenge problems, or you have already created as parts of other end of chapter exercises that you've created from chapters essentially 3 through 9. So what are we looking, just in the points breakout here? Here's what you'll need to deliver. Modules. So I'm looking for, at the very least, the following modules. Is this a complete list of modules? No. But it will at least get you started. First and foremost, you'll need a module that you'll use to get the app names. Now, I understand that you are not going to have a full and complete understanding of the processes that are happening in the background for iOS and Android, and that is perfectly okay. What I want is your logical design here for what you think we could do. So what I'm suggesting is that every time you install an app, we would have a module that would go through and it would retrieve those application names. What I'm telling you here, this little sub bullet point here. So what I would suggest is having 2 paired, essentially, arrays. One array for the name and one array for what kind of application, what kind of data it is that we're passing. This way, if I come here to Instagram, right, and I'm passing images. So these are all going to be high quality images. The probability of me printing an image, in 2019 are 0, right? But the probability of me wanting to share an image is pretty high. So image would be a type for this. So I'm just saying it may be of value to you to think of a paired array here so that you get some value out of what kinds of data are being passed. If you find, however, that is, a choke point, that's something that you're getting stuck on, you don't need to provide it. I'm just suggesting I have seen students have success in thinking of it that way. Next, you'll need a module to sort the apps based on rank. So again, if you think about what PageRank is, it is those applications which are selected the most go to the top of the list. Those applications which are selected the least go to the back of the list. So a bubble sort is absolutely positively the way to go on this, but you're going to have to update this list. So think about that in your modular design as well. Is that updating going to be here in this module for sorting, or is it going to be in another module? Just a little verbal breadcrumb hint for you there. You'll need a module that you'll call to display the applications. Remember, your operating system is based on this kind of modular design. When you go in to print something in Word, that print dialog box is the same as Excel. That print dialog box is pretty similar to what you'll see in Firefox. The one from Firefox is pretty similar to what you'll see in Notepad. There's a reason for that. You're really just accessing the print module. So in order for us to display the apps, we're also going to want to have a module that can do that. Just something to consider here that is worth part of that 10 points is how long is that list going to be? Is it different if you have in this case, a vertical orientation of your device, or is it different if you have a horizontal implementation of your device? I'll tell you that can be done incredibly simply knowing what you know about selection. Next, you'll need a module to search for new apps. So you need to actually, as a developer, discreetly think about these different portions of your program. So I can install an application at any time on any of my devices. That's not something that the system restricts. That means you're going to have to go through and look for those. So that piece is up to you. Remember that modules might accept data being passed to them, and that's going to require that both the calling and the called module show the same number of arguments that they're expecting. So you will need to show that congruity here. So if you are passing an array of names and an array of functions, you are going to have to make sure that the called module accepts 2 arrays. So just something to think about. Now, I've used the word arrays at least 11 times now, and with good reason, because it's worth 20 points. You will need paired arrays for the names of the apps and the click rank, so that's the number of times, again, that those are chosen. Minimally, you'll also need arrays for names and icons for display purposes. Probably you're going to need a host of other arrays, because those are going to be the data structures that are going to be the easiest for you to be able to maintain. Next, we have selection and repetition. Everything we do is still going to be here structure theorem. Just because we have modular design doesn't mean that we don't still require sequence, selection, and repetition. So for 10 total points, you're going to need to make sure that the app that you're calling can accept the data you're passing. You're going to need, so that's got if and else or case of statements. You're going to need to format the display so that it looks the way you think. And I am giving you wide latitude here for what it is that you think you need to format that display. What kinds of data are you going to give, etc. That's all up to you. So what does that mean? Here in the display, if I go to share, you'll notice I get Hangouts and the icon. I get Mail and the icon. I get Copy and the copy icon. That's good user design. If it's just a new icon, that might not give the user enough visual data to understand what application am I sharing with here. So I'm trying to lead you to some of these good design principles here as well. Any other structures you're going to need to get this done, think of what your mainline algorithm is going to need to do sequentially to get everything done. What are you going to need to do in the way of repetition to get things done? You're going to need an IPO, so a defining diagram, and hierarchy charts. For those of you who haven't had a chance to see them yet, there are hierarchy chart videos, or is a hierarchy chart video that goes through and demonstrates how to create the chart in Office 365 PowerPoint. The reason it's in Office 365 PowerPoint is, number one, as part of your student at rockvalleycollege.edu email address, you can sign in on Office 365 and use PowerPoint there. That's the easiest way to create a hierarchy chart. Clearly, you can do it in Word or PowerPoint if you have a desktop with that installed, but I know not everybody does. So Office 365 is something that I can say 100% guaranteed everybody has access to. If you've got a Chromebook, if you've got an iOS device, if you have a computer, something much more robust than a device, you will be able to get Office 365 running there. So 10 points for those, 5 and 5 apiece. In modular design, remember that in modular design, what we're looking for is essentially to create subordinate modules that in their name, they will describe to you the full and complete function list. So everything it is that that module is doing should be explained to you in the name of the module. So again, there's some hints here as to kind of some of those design principles I'll be looking at. If we've got a module that we're calling to sort the applications, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to update that list in the sort as well. So just remember, modular design indicates that you are creating modules that are as small and single purpose as possible. I have for you here an Android developer link on exactly how that happens. I am not suggesting to anybody that the ins and outs of this particular link are going to be crucial to how it is that you can complete this assignment. I will tell you again, you have, through challenge problems and end of chapter exercises, you have already created much of what you'll need to get this done. But for those of you who are curious, for those of you who are looking to get into applications development later on down the line, this link actually really pulls the curtains back and shows you a lot of the things that are happening in the background that really can make your life easier at doing this. I'm going to extend to you here an opportunity over the course of the week because certainly this is a large assignment. It's worth more than the midterm, essentially, by way of points value. If over the course of the week you have questions, please, for the love of Pete, send them to me via messages or email, and I will get those right back to you. If you have draft copies of what you're doing here, send those to me over the course of the week, and I can get you some preliminary feedback on those. The remaining projects we have are all of them not similar necessarily to this in design, but they are similar in scope. What we are going to do is finish out the semester by taking everything you know from previous chapters and build them into large-scale applications that really demonstrate all of the chapters, essentially 1 through 9, and maybe a little bit into 10 here, that are really going to stretch and push you to really go beyond some of those end of chapter exercises and really try to reach further than you've reached already. So good luck. 90 points turns out to be a pretty big points balance.